Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. We're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. But if you want to say hey in the chat and write in where you're calling in from, we can get things started here in a couple minutes.
Is it really Ben Hart? Ben Hart, are you on this? Yay.
We've
Jeremiah,
got,
I'm just going through the list. Jeremiah, so good to see you guys.
Oregon.
Casey. I'm just like going like, I love this. I love this. I love this.
Chad, I think I see somebody with the same last name as you.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
never heard
Marie
that
from
last
from
name before.
Vegas.
Wow,
There's not too many of us out there, us Puses, so I'm sure we're connected somehow.
that's awesome. So cool. Everyone's from everywhere. We've got Brooklyn, Texas, Nebraska, Montana. Beautiful. Jody
Marie,
Strong,
we're
I
in Las
see.
Vegas. Like we're heading there this weekend for the Intuit Connect.
It's going to be such a great time. Colorado, that's where I'm from. Cool.
I love it.
Awesome. All right, it's 11:32. So Pew's by marriage and originally from Wisconsin, where most of the Pews are from. Got it.
Yeah.
Um, all right, it's 11:32 and I don't want to waste any time, so let's get this party started. Thank you guys for joining our session today. I'm really excited for all the insights that these wonderful panelists have to share with you guys. Right at the top, I did just want to start with the elephant in the room. By now, most of you have probably heard that Keeper has changed its name to Double. Some of the slides here have the old Keeper logo, just so you know that you're in the right place. This is the webinar you're supposed to be at. But yeah, if you have any questions or haven't read the blog post that Ben put up on our website, which is doublehq.com, I would definitely recommend checking that out. It explains the story behind the rename and just focuses on how excited we are. So let's get into the content here. I am super glad to be joined by Christine and Michelle. They represent 30 years of accounting experience combined. They currently have a CAS consulting practice called Infinite Advisors, and then they also have a CAS community called Infinite Ties. So they'll talk a little bit more about that. And we also have Keeper's very own Chad Pues. He's an account executive here, and he also is a practicing CPA, and he's got years of experience leveraging Keeper in firms to drive efficiency and increase capacity. So we're all in for a treat here. So I'll let you guys take it away. Oh, one last thing. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A tab and we will address them as they come up. But definitely use that tab specifically, not the chat. Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. And when you say the old Keeper logo, that's like, what is it, like 4 hours old? Like
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the vintage Keeper logo.
the vintage Keeper logo. So I love that. I love the announcement. We try to, because we were building this and we'll go through it and we try to capture their new logo, but just really high level, 5 seconds on Michelle and I. We own Infinite Ties. It is a CAS community. We're having so much fun. These are just some aspects of our community. Right now, we're just thriving with our 12-month staff senior training track, which has been really fun. And so we've designed this for the CAS community, and we're very, very passionate about that. So thank you for having us, Chad.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Um, Happy to jump in on this one and give a little bit of context for what Double is all about. Our goal with Double is really to help CAS teams bring as much of that recurring work into one piece of software, so they're not having to jump out between 3 or 4 different apps to close their clients' books. We want to give CAS teams the right tool for the right job, which means giving them the structure they need to define the work that the team is doing, the transparency to understand where that work is at, and the tools to make the team more efficient as they're going about that work. And excited to talk today about how all of those pieces together help unlock capacity within your CAS practice.
And the new logo. So we tried to like take it and change all this real quick for you guys, Chad. So this is awesome.
I love it. I love it. If we accidentally say keeper, we'll just have to like start putting dollars into the keeper jar as punishment.
Yeah, this is gonna be tough. So yeah, so Michelle, let you take it away.
Yeah, so to start with, I think one of the big paradoxes in CAS firms is we're always preaching to our clients they need to be proactive. We need to, look at budgets, forecasts, cash flow, all of those things. And we ourselves are really terrible about that. We're kind of reactive constantly. Oh, we're at capacity. This has to get out this week. We're not planning ahead. And so Keeper fits in that role for helping us be proactive. And this speaks to what I just said, firefighting replaces planning, right? So because we're in that reactive mode, we're constantly just reacting to the current issue and not planning for the issue. So this fixes that fireplace or firefighting.
And I love that this like the gap isn't knowledge, it's the capacity, right? And so when we're talking about what our topic is today, it's all capacity and how are we creating capacity and how are we creating capacity in this space? Because we're all in the same kind of realm and we like this is our soapbox lately, right? Is how much capacity do we have and is it real? Because the way that and we talk about this a lot, the mindset in a traditional, like I grew up in public accounting for the last 30 years, but the mindset needs to shift, right? Because when you give somebody a budget and you say you have 20 hours and then you tie their goals and metrics to compensation and promotion based on budgeted hours, you're going to use 20 hours, right? And so then you don't shift work and you don't move work to them too, because you think they're at capacity. And then we end up throwing people at the problem when we're not really understanding what is true capacity.
Yep, or the opposite happens, right? You give them 20 hours and it might take them 25, but they put 20 hours in. And so you've lost that capacity, right? Without the insight to it. Yeah. And then so Christine, I'll let you kind of talk through this. We know what we need to do, but nobody has the capacity to implement anything new. It's part of the reason why software implementation fails, process changes fail, because we have these great ambitious ideas, but none of us have the capacity to actually implement them.
Or, when we're talking about, and we'll talk about, I'm going to keep saying keeper. You're going to have to like buzz me like I need like a little shot collar with double as well as, what are you utilizing from a software perspective to have insight into that capacity? Because if we can't see it, you can't manage it, right? So part of the causes too, we talk about bad systems and the symptoms and if you don't have a product, you're generally working out of an Excel spreadsheet, right? Or you're trying to extract data from your practice management system to say, where are we, who has what? There's just no single source of truth, which happens all the time. And we've all done this. And or where Michelle and I have been is we've tried to use audit and tax solutions and like fit CAS into it, and that was a complete failure too. So we've tried all the bad systems, I feel like, Michelle.
Yeah, and within this bad system, I think this is why you're reactive, right? So if you're tracking this in Excel spreadsheet, you're updating it after this happened, right? We didn't actually get this client work out last week, so now we've got to move it to this week, but I don't know that until after the week's over.
Yep.
Okay.
Communication.
Yeah, client communication. So some of this is actually our fault, right? We do a bad job of setting boundaries out of the gate. And so we have all of these different places that we're communicating with our clients, email, text. We might have a firm portal, and how we're sharing docs and whether we, or is it a secure link that they then have to download? All of those things, we're now managing a whole bunch of places where we're communicating with our clients, and we've killed our boundaries. And every client's different. So a lot of the workflow products that we've looked at or even utilized has kind of a set template. And none of our clients are the same, even within the same industry. They've got their own nuances. So you need that flexibility in order to really create a customized workflow for each one of your clients. Now, I'm not saying everything should be customizable, but you do need that flexibility.
And one more thing, if we could go back to that last slide,
Yeah.
Christine, something that I saw there underneath the bad systems is the note on visibility being the prerequisite to planning. In my role as an account executive here at Double, I'm meeting with firms every day, all day, introducing them to Keeper. And one of the first questions that I ask them is, you know, how many clients are you servicing from like a monthly CAS perspective or quarterly CAS perspective to get an idea of like the size of the firm and where they're at today? And it's shocking the number of firms that are unable to answer that question. And that is the first like red flag to me. Like we don't have the right system in place if we don't know even how many clients that we're servicing or what those frequencies are. So that bullet point down there really stood out. And I see that regularly in a lot of demos for people wanting to explore options to add a little bit more visibility to their tech stack.
Yep. Agreed. So yeah, consequences with firm and people, right? Michelle and I talk about this a lot, and we consult with a ton of firms. And we just had a call today with a firm that you don't have the time. And also the other thing here too is I feel like right now in this space, we are overwhelmed and inundated with software and technology, right? And there's so many vendors coming at this space right now, which is totally different than audit and tax, right? Audit and tax, like tax has been using the same software for the last like 30, 50 years, right? Like there's the top, whatever ones they are. I don't even want to name them because I don't want to miss anybody, but then insert CAS and now you have a 30 deep, tech stack oftentimes. And so it just gets hard to decipher what should you have, what should you need, but then really what's creating those benefits and the efficiencies for firms. And so we just find a lot of times that firms don't have the time to implement. And I know, Chad, we've worked with you on several firms too, and where we have come into play is even just shifting the dynamics and the mindset of implementation, and to say, okay, you know what this firm needs? They need to know what they need to know tomorrow. And,
Yeah.
like I think a lot of software vendors come in and say, let us show you everything that it does. And then you implement it and it takes weeks. And then you're like, okay, but I'm not ever going to retain that and I'm not going to remember that. So thank you for pivoting with us and doing that.
Yeah, of course, of course. Like you said, a lot of software in the space today doing a lot of different things, but focusing on those early fundamentals of those different systems are going to unlock a lot more value rather than trying to do everything right out of the gate.
Yep. And we can talk about this too, but I do think Ian Michelle's going to touch on it. The implementation time frame has really it's just been minimal, and so it's been more of a plug and play. This too, no time to work on the firm. This is again, this is just across all firms, right? We want to do all these things and we want to grow, and we just actually talk to a firm and everybody I want to double my revenue and I want to, triple like this in the next 3 years. But are you giving your people the capacity and the time to be strategic? Right? Because if they have a full book of business and they have a full charge hour budget expectation, how are we being strategic with this? And so it's allowing once you, and this is hard because you want to build capacity, A, to generate new revenue, but B, to be strategic and have that platform system process in place to actually allow that to grow. Staff burnout and turnover risk. So when you feel like, you're constantly firefighting, and what does that look like? Because you're always behind the curve instead of ahead of the curve. And Michelle and I did this several years ago. It was like every day we'd have a plan, and every day our plan would like blow up because there was some client, fire. And like we just sat and said, what are we doing wrong? Like, why do we, like, what are we not giving them that they're asking for? Like, what is our core problem? And so part of that, though, too, and speaking to specifically double, like you said, keeper once, Chad, I didn't have a shot. Um, but speaking of double, and how is that creating that visibility? And then reduce, obviously, all of that results in that reduced profitability and scalability.
As someone that has worked in public accounting for a long time and left public accounting on more than one occasion only to come back, there's a lot of these here that I can relate to for sure.
So see, I did the double and I missed the one. Hey, day one, we're the morning of. But they consolidate the places that work and communication live. So, right, we're taking offshore teams, we're taking onshore teams, we're taking data and workflow and clients, and really just utilizing that technology bridge to bring all of those together. I did transparency. So Michelle and Chad, like I'm a tech nerd, but these two are uber tech nerds. So I'm gonna let you guys start talking through, get into your nerdiness here.
So I'm going to jump in and talk about the dashboard first, right? It's
Yeah.
all your clients all in one place, where they're at in the process, you know, what's still open. We can leave notes and I can see those right from the dashboard where we're hung up. Chad?
Yeah, Michelle and I both want to fight over who gets to talk about the dashboard
Yes.
because it is so valuable, and just being able to see where the team's at across all of that client work. So excited to share a little bit more on that a little later during today's presentation.
The other one I want to throw out on the dashboard that I love is there's some key indicators right on that dashboard where before I even go in and even if the you know, the staff says, okay, it's ready to review, and I get in and I see some month over month variances that feels outrageous. I'm stopping, I'm not digging in, I'm not reviewing from that point on. I'm going back and saying, we obviously have something awry here. So I can see that even before I start.
Absolutely, as well as any open items from those clients as well. So not just like the workflow from where your team's at across that work, but what are we waiting on from the client without needing to page back through weeks and weeks of emails. Being able to see that in the same spot is huge.
Yeah. And then we've got budgets in there, right? So budget versus actual, and where are we at? And did we, this is a spot where I can find scope creep as the close process is going, instead of just seeing it when it's time to bill and we actually haven't communicated that with the client. It lets me kind of watch that in real time so I can say, oh, did something happen? Did they ask for something extra? And let's go ahead and communicate that with the client now. It's really hard to, you know, when you get to billing time, go back and say, oh, actually, we're going to have extra fees because this is this, but we never communicated to you. So this lets me see that in real time. If we may have some scope creep going on.
Definitely, and I think another big call out there is, and we could have an entire another webinar on just the benefits of tracking time, even if you're not using it for like billing clients, but just having that information internally to know, you know, what the team is spending that time on, and identifying that scope creep proactively, like you said, Michelle, goes a really long way.
And bottlenecks, right? Is that us? Is that the client? Is it, you know, a lot of times us managers and above, we become the bottlenecks. And that actually kills our learning opportunity. You know, we say, oh, our staff, you know, keeps making the same mistakes, but part of that reason is we're the bottleneck. It gets to us, we've got to get it out the door in the final review, and we never actually communicate, oh, you continually have this issue, I want you to do it differently, or here's some coaching on that. So I can now see, oh, I'm the problem. It's not actually who's sending it to me. And we talked about scope creep.
Oh yeah, and going back to the bottleneck point here, like another place where I see a lot of firms with bottlenecks is when they're working with an offshore team to help manage some of the back end office support, but those team members are not traditionally client facing in a lot of situations, and so equipping your team with the tools that allows them to communicate with clients without necessarily revealing themselves as a team member that's not traditionally client facing also helps to relieve some of those bottlenecks related to the client communication side of things, is another really common use case, and we'll take a look at that here in a little bit as well.
The other thing I love about this is in that bottleneck arena is it gives me a space where, okay, we're supposed to have financials to you by Friday. It is now Tuesday and we're still waiting on information. So I can now proactively go to the client and say, okay, if we don't have this information by the end of the day or whatever that is, we're just letting you know your financials are going to be late. We need at least this many days to finalize everything once we have everything. And if you proactively communicate, you put it back on their plate, then you don't have upset clients.
Absolutely.
I think we
So
talked a little bit about this too, but yeah, go ahead. It's just reiterating.
Yeah, Michelle, I know this was one that you really use a lot of in your firm, if I remember correctly, is that capacity planning module in Keeper and being able to see those budgeted hours versus the actual time spent. Excited to share that on screen in a bit, but anything else you want to add while we're talking about the monitoring of capacity?
No, but I think this next bullet point, this is, I think for Christine and I, this is a culture change where we're giving different metrics that we're for our staff, right? So now we can look and say, what's the percent of our tasks that were actually completed on time? It's not necessarily about the hours, the billable hours, the revenue goals. These are actual measurable tasks that actually help move the work forward, make things better. Also helps us see pricing issues, right? So maybe we're not getting things done on time because of a client bottleneck, or the data is just taking longer to do whatever we need to do with it to get it into a space where we can put it into financials. So both of these things are great insights into, is this priced correctly?
Well, and I would just want to add to that too, again, on this whole like mindset shift in the soapbox of it doesn't mean that we're not tracking charge hours, right? It doesn't mean that people don't have the charge hours, but in CAS though, all we keep asking our teams to do is push work down, push work offshore, implement technology, and it has to be a safe place for them to be able to do that, right? And so it's that shift in that mentality and psychology of, yes, you're not going to get dinged for doing what we asked. And my whole other part of that is then that efficiency and that margin gain is the firm's. That's not necessarily the client's, like that's the firm's margin gain, right? And so it really is that just shifting that mentality there.
And kind of just kind of to hopefully not derail the conversation, but is that something that y'all are working with firms on and changing that mindset through Infinite Ties? And what does that look like?
We are doing that with an Infinite Ties and in Infinite Advisors, and it's really giving them concrete different goals to shift to. That again is not decreasing revenue. It's not decreasing, it's increasing margins, but it's that adoption of the technology, and it's because that's just creating efficiency, right? This also then goes with what we're consulting to firms is those also need to be fixed fees, right? Because by no means do you want to create efficiencies and technology on an hourly engagement and then just decrease your revenue. That like
Incentives don't work there. Yeah.
Incentives don't work there, right? And so yeah, we do work a lot with that. So yeah. So I think, just monitoring this capacity in double, just reiterating some of these, like calculating the rework ratio. And we're going to go through a formula too, that's going to give you just some capacity measurement gain as well, which is right here. So, and we just wanted to give this quick quick diagnostic, right, of how you can start to calculate. And I'm not going to like take you through this entire formula because you get the gist of it, and you can see kind of at the bottom when you put and apply this formula, you can start to identify the time that you can recover based on implementing a workflow and such as double, and managing all of your client requests, team communication all in one place, because a lot of it too is, Michelle, the pick up, put down. How many times we
Yeah.
pick this up, we put it down. Oh, that's not there. And so it really does, that dashboard view allows you to eliminate a lot of that pick up, put down time frame. Okay. This is just success metrics. This is just an example of what we start to say of, what can you say? Here's where we are today, whether you have a software implemented or not, and where do we want to go with that, right? The on-time close rate, open item aging. What does that look like? Are we getting data from the clients faster? Is it automated within Double that the requests are going out? They're uploading the documents, they're answering the questions, because we know it's a two-way sync from Double to the other GL platforms. And so how much efficiency are we gaining? What's that rework ratio? And again, can you tangibly start to track what your recoverable capacity is? Because that's the ROI, right? And when I say ROI, yes, there's some costs to Double, but to me, it's so minimal for what you guys give as a product too. So this is like Chad and Michelle's favorite slide. We'll talk about a few. I know we just talked about the two-way sync, but Michelle, you love this two-way sync. If you want to expand on that.
I do love this two-way sync. So one, because really I can set up a client in minutes and connect all of their accounts and start making my workflow based on their chart of accounts, right? So not only is this going to tell me, it's going to pull in the data, and then within Double, I can click into that data. If I have specific questions, either at the account level or the transaction level, I can ask those questions right within Double at the transaction level and say, whether I'm asking the client or whether I'm asking internally, I can get that feedback instantaneous. And then when I change, if I need to make updates in Double, that's going to sync right back to QBO or Zero. I'm not making that adjustment in two separate places. So I love this piece. The other piece is when it's assigned to a staff member. This is something I look at when I review, and they say, okay, I'm done, I've done that. And then I get to review. There's actually a timestamp where it says this is what that account balance was as of the time they said they completed the task. And here's a change. It's going to point that out. That balance changed after they said they were done with it. So first thing I'm going to do is look and see what happened. Why did we have a change? Did we get additional information? Did we not lock the file down and the client added something? I want to know that before I start diving into that account.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we started with that bullet point, because that is a really big value for Double here, is just having that integrated ledger in the same place where the team is tracking and monitoring their work, rather than keeping that separate, which has been the historical norm for years and years. So excited to share how all of that comes together here in a bit.
Yeah, and we talked to some firms do their entire close within Double, because you can post those automated journal entries, do all sorts of things, and you can link back, make adjustments, make changes right in Double. They never actually get into QBO to do their close, because you can do that all within your workflow.
That's right, including this next bullet here, the client communication available through the client portal. So replacing the need for CAS teams to do that email back and forth with clients on uncategorized transaction questions. What is this for? Sending spreadsheets back and forth, or making requests for other statements or documents. All of that is managed in the same place where the team is managing their work.
And within that, the client portal piece, two things. When we implemented this, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh my, we're gonna get pushback from our clients. That's another place they have to go. Our clients actually love it. And then also, I don't have a heart palpitation when they email me, personal info in an email that's not secure, and I'm panicking, and now I can't forward it on. I've got to move it somewhere else. And then if I've got to get it to somebody on my staff, I'm putting it in a client folder or somewhere else, and I'm communicating outside of that. Hey, go look here. They sent it, but I can't email it to you because it shouldn't be emailed.
So we talked a little bit about the capacity management on the last slide, and being able to view not only the time that your team has spent, but compare that to the budgeted hours and drill in to understand where's my team spending this time and by whom on each of these clients to proactively identify scope creep. And then this next one, again, just reiterating the centralized client communication for both the clients as well as the internal team. So no more review comments or questions exchanged by your team via Slack or Teams or email. That's all centralized in the close where the team is managing the rest of that process.
I'm going to throw this out. I love this in creating client boundaries, right? So a lot of times we put a rule in, our staff are not allowed to give out their cell phone numbers because our client abuses that. They text them over the weekend. So you can add a text number right within Keeper. If that's your client's preferred mode of communication, awesome. Still text, but it goes through here. And then you get a email persona, so accounting at, and it's all going into Keeper. They don't know specifically who it's coming from. So if you've got offshore teams that you're going to allow to communicate, that's a great way to do it. They can do it right through Keeper. It's coming from the same email address right within that. But one of the things that was actually helpful as we implemented Keeper was resetting those client boundaries. And so it was really easy. They'd email us something, and we trained everybody that our response is, thanks, this is great. We want to make sure this is all in one place. Can you send this to accounting at, right? So that the whole team has access to it. And a couple of those emails, and the clients just stopped emailing people directly, went through the portal. We could all see it. We all had access. We all knew what was going on. It was great.
And yeah, this is a good one. Do you want to talk about this one, Michelle?
You go.
Okay.
Chad and I are nerds. We get super excited.
W-9 automation. So I've spoken pretty publicly about my run-ins with 1099s throughout my my accounting career, including a trip to the hospital in 2021, in January of 2021 with a panic attack because I was so far behind on 1099s and W-9 collection. I understand the pains, and not being prepared for 1099 season because you haven't managed the capacity or managed that process throughout the year sets the pace for what busy season is going to be like. With Keeper's 1099 report, which we're definitely going to talk about today in a little bit, the team's able to manage those W-9 requests throughout the year. So that way they're not scrambling at year end to identify and reach out to those vendors and clients then for those forms. And just being able to stay on top of that process throughout the year keeps everybody going into the busy season, feeling refreshed with capacity to do what needs to get done during the busy season.
This is one thing that I love because we're managing that W-9 process every month. It's part of our workflow process, right? You've got to clear that out. You've got to communicate with the client, or you've got to identify if maybe that vendor doesn't need a 1099. We make it part of our process. We ask for a W-9 from every vendor. It just is a compliance issue, right? If we get a 1099 audit, we have to prove that that's a corporation and they don't need a 1099. So every single one. The other piece that's in here that is quasi-related is within Keeper, there's a section of vendors without vendor names. And so, you know, sometimes we get really fast with our coding and we don't actually put a vendor name in there. And then we get to year end and we have to sort through those to identify whether they qualify for a 1099 or not. So that's part of the month end close process too. Every transaction needs a name. That just helps us when we get to year end, make that process smoother.
And going back to earlier in today's presentation, I talked about making sure that CAS teams have the right tool for the right job. Rather than trying to force that CAS practice into software built for audit or built for tax, as Christine and Michelle had alluded to earlier, our goal with Double is to help those teams put that structure in place, and then again give them the visibility they need to understand where they're at across all of that work.
So I'm not going to go too deep into this automation because I think it's better seen than explained. But Keeper specifically is built for CAS, right? It works with our workflows. You can do monthly, weekly, daily, quarterly, annually. All of those tasks will fit right in Keeper and allow you to add that automation in. Oh, yes. So whether it's no, I get excited. Sorry.
No, this is another one that I thought we would fight over, but you go ahead.
So there is built-in templates for even just the workflow. Like I was saying earlier, I can set up a client within minutes with just Keeper's already templates, or Double, sorry. Or I can create a firm-wide template for my workflow and implement that across multiple clients all at once with a click of a button. So you can customize a template, get it ready, get it set out of the box, and you've got a client up and going in minutes. The other side to that is there is reporting templates too, already built in. So if you're sending out reports or publishing reports to the portal, there is reporting templates already built in. Okay, I'll let you go, Chad.
No, I think you nailed it. Just being able to have that structure put in place as soon as you connect that client means that the implementation goes so much quicker because you're not having to build or design your workflows from scratch. The structure is already in place. The QBO and Xero integrated review tools that we're going to look at today are already available within that default close page. So the team can, like you said, literally plug and play with a lot of these features and hit the ground running to begin adding more structure and efficiency to their CAS practice. And this talking about white labeling and firm branding largely goes back to the client portal and the communications there. Clients get nervous when they hear the word portal, that dreaded P word, because they've had a lot of bad experiences with portals in the past with those clunky login screens and apps that have been needed to download. We're going to take a look at how easy it is for clients to get into the portal here in Keeper or Double. Here we go. What's our tally? But when they open up that portal, it's going to be branded to match your firm. Those notifications, like Michelle mentioned, are coming from your firm's preferred email address. So they're not going to know the Double name. It's going to look like a true extension of your services throughout their entire experience.
The other piece I want to just point out within that portal is we've got clients with multiple entities, whether that's a location or completely separate entities. They have one login here to the portal, and then there's a drop down where they can switch between, so they're not having to have 3 different logins for 3 different entities or whatever that is. One login, and then there's a drop down where they can switch, which also makes this much easier.
Awesome. All right, Chad, I'm going to stop sharing if you want to. I know that, and again, we're trying to just really cater this to, the CAS firms, CAS teams, and how do you utilize this? And this is what Michelle and I've been doing a ton with, is just working with vendors to say, how do you come in and sell to firms, right? When we are overwhelmed and like just inundated with software and tech. And so really just trying to make it specific to to
And
you.
Chad, before you get started, we've got one question in our Q of A, and I want you
yeah.
to, you can address that as you get to that in the demo.
Oh yeah. Let me take a look at that question. I might have missed it.
I can read it out for you, Chad.
Okay.
Somebody's asking, how do you set up a phone number in Double? That was alluded to.
Oh, perfect. So that's going to take place underneath the practice settings, underneath the client portal in the branding. If you're not seeing that option in your current Keeper account, make sure you chat in with our support team down here in the bottom right, and they'll be able to help you enable that white label and branding. So that way you can set up that preferred or that practice phone number and practice email and the other pieces that come with that branding. But Michelle, Christine, and I have just expressed a whole bunch of excitement about different areas of the product. I want to spend a few minutes now to kind of tie those together and give a quick tour of how all of that comes together. So what we're looking at together on my screen right now is what we call a client's close page. So we're looking at example client 1801 brands, looking at that March period. And the close page is really where the team's defining and managing the majority of their client work. This is the structure that I was talking about earlier. Broken up into several different sections here on the left. Each section contains tasks related to that particular client. So the team's essentially just working this from top to bottom, completing those tasks along the way. But it's not just the traditional task management that you're familiar with in some of the other workflow software in the space. Yes, we have the ability to set due dates and assign team members, but because we have that integration with QBO and Xero, we're able to do some pretty exciting things that the other software in the space are not able to do. And one of the items that Michelle referenced earlier is our account reconciliation section. And this is where we start to see that integration because Keeper is automatically looking at that client's chart of accounts and pulling in any bank accounts and credit card accounts that we see there, because those are most commonly getting reconciled by the CAS teams. But certainly if there are other client accounts here that need to get tied out, your team's able to select those from the client's chart of accounts for inclusion in this section, where we're going to provide a reference to the date of the transaction that was last reconciled there, the book balance at the end of the period, and as Michelle mentioned earlier, a timestamp balance for what that balance is when the team marks that task as complete, along with any supporting documents or work papers that the team would choose to include here. So still a little task management adjacent here. We're seeing a little bit of the integration. Where things get really exciting here is down in the transaction review section, because this is where we start to get into those review tools that are going to help the team to self-review their own work and catch and correct coding errors. And one of the favorite reports that Michelle mentioned is the transactions without payees report. It's an easy example to demonstrate with because it does exactly what it sounds like. Flagging for your team any of those transactions that have been accepted into the ledger without a vendor or payee assigned. You're able to make those changes here, create new vendors, assign existing vendors, and those changes can get made one by one or in bulk. And those are syncing right back to the ledger. So as we said earlier, this isn't just where the CAS team is tracking and managing their work, but rather now they're able to review their work in the same place without needing to jump back into the ledger to identify and make changes there. And that's just one of our many review tools that we have available right out of the box. Another one that I wanted to talk about is our uncategorized transactions report, where we start to talk about that client communication aspect that we've spoken about already. This report is intended to, again, replace that email and spreadsheet back and forth between your team and those clients asking about, what is this transaction for? Because the team's going to be able to define those holding or suspense accounts where they're setting aside those transactions, Keeper's then collecting any transactions that would show up in any of those accounts, and then give your team the opportunity to type out whatever questions that they have or utilize those template questions that you've created to add those questions to the client portal. And once those questions have been added to the client portal, the team would be able to then push a notification to the client either by text message or email that lets them know that they have open items there that requires their feedback, along with a unique link that's going to take that client directly to the portal. Again, no usernames, no passwords, no extra apps for clients to download. They're clicking this unique link. They're going to be asked to authenticate their email address that first time. And those links are going to take them then to their portal, which could look something like this. So easy for clients to get in here. And once they're here, they're going to see not only the list of transaction questions that your team has added to the portal for them, along with those the transaction details, but any other non-transaction questions as well. Things like statements or one-off questions related to onboarding. A lot of great use cases for the non-transaction questions. And then any financials that are shared with clients through the portal as well can be made visible for them here, not only from a PDF perspective where the client can review those packages here, but also an interactive element. And this is relatively new. Michelle, I don't know if you've had the chance to check this out, but any graphs or visuals that you define for clients are now available for your clients in the portal to follow along with how their business is trending, as well as interactive P&Ls and balance sheets to begin drilling into those line items and understanding the vendors and the payees that make up those monthly balances, so they can start to self-resolve some of their own questions before coming to the team and saying, what's included in software and apps this month?
Yeah, I think my clients are really loving the fact that the drill down by vendor, so they can really get an idea of spend by vendor and drill right into those accounts. And you're right, they are self answering some of their questions. We're not having to go back and say, oh, that was this and that was this, and they can drill right into that and get an idea.
Yeah, makes it so much easier and gives them a little bit more information than what they would have just seeing a PDF balance sheet on their own and wondering what's in there. Coming back to the internal side of Keeper, I wanted to cover two other things. I wanted to highlight our 1099s report, and then I wanted to zoom out and take a look at our client list dashboard. Our 1099 report is here on the close page. So as Michelle mentioned, it's front and center for the team as part of that month-end close workflow. It's front and center for them, so they're not having to remember to do this beginning in October. This is something that's going to be part of their month-end close process. And because we integrate with QBO and Xero, we're able to identify any of those client vendors that hit that $600 year-to-date spend threshold, excluding credit card spend by default. So all year long, Keeper's pulling in those vendors into this report that hit that threshold, and we're pulling in any available vendor profile information that's already been saved in QBO or Xero, which is going to make it easy for your team to immediately see when you're missing information related to those vendors. And then those W-9s can get requested through Keeper from the client or the client's vendor directly. And when those are received, you're able to reference them on screen, update that information based on what you see, check that very important box if that 1099 is going to be necessary, save it, and then all of that information gets pushed back to QBO. So it's saved in there for you at the end of the year when you actually go to prepare those 1099s.
The other feature I think you should show that I think goes hand in hand is we are bad about vendor and even customer hygiene. And so you've got that section about duplicate vendors, and you can set the sensitivity to this, which I love, that picks up possible duplicate vendors and lets you review those and say, no, those are okay. You can go ahead and exclude that. But we also make this part of our month-end close because it just keeps that vendor hygiene piece. And sometimes you get it's a comma that's throwing you off.
Yeah.
And if you don't catch that during 1099 season, you're actually sending two separate 1099s out to the same exact vendor.
Yeah, really good call out. And these tools are intended to kind of work together. So that way, as the team's doing that initial review above in the transaction review, they're identifying those transactions that don't yet have payees, making sure all of those are assigned. Like Michelle said, identifying duplicate vendors and making sure those are merged before preparing that list of vendors that are going to need the 1099s. So it all works together.
Yep. And then that newly added vendors report, we like that from a risk mitigation, right? So I can quickly come in here and say what got added this month, who's new, and does that make sense to me? This is a great way to add an extra layer of fraud protection if a new vendor gets added here and you're actually reviewing this and looking at this and go, actually, that's an employee, right? Why is that a new vendor? All of those things, it's just an added layer of risk mitigation within here.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good call out there. And One other thing that I want to highlight back here in our transaction review tools that I found really helpful from my old firm is that these tools allow you to begin delegating some of that review work to the lower level staff and new employees. Whereas a lot of this review process used to sit on my desk, now that the staff can take those tools, review their own work by simply addressing the different transactions that would show up across these different review tools, and complete that review on their own before it ever hits that reviewer's desk. So again, continuing to delegate, continuing to free up capacity for team members doing some of the higher value work. All right, so we've been looking at the close page for one client, 1801 brands. Our grand finale is going to be this client list dashboard that Michelle and I absolutely go crazy about. This dashboard is the reason why my old firm came to Keeper in the first place, and the reason why so many firms come to Keeper in the first place, because it is so important for firms to have that high level visibility to understand where the team's at and where they're at across all of that client work. And this is the dashboard that gives it to folks. So this is going to list, I said Keeper like 3 times in there, I think. This is going to list those clients of yours, any team members assigned on those different roles on that engagement, assuming some level of handoff, the close of the period that the team's working on. And then out here to the right is that indication of the progress of the team's making as they progress through those different sections of the close page, but with the ability for the team to drill into these cells to see what's been done versus what remains open. So they know exactly where they're at without needing to page back through or loop in a bunch of team members to ask where they're at or jump back into the file. And that same visibility that we mentioned earlier related to those open items in the client portal is available through that same dashboard. So being able to see exactly what you're waiting on from the client without needing to page back through weeks and weeks of emails or again, loop in a bunch of team members. Having that visibility unlocks so much information that is going to help you all to make better decisions as far as the capacity and the planning for your firm. Anything else that we want to quickly highlight? I know we wanted to set aside a few minutes for questions, and we've got a few other slides, but happy to highlight anything else before I give you the screen back.
I do want to mention here on this close page that this is customizable. So if I'm managing multiple firm locations or multiple teams or industry niches, I can break this down and see exactly what I want. So this view is customizable. I can customize it down to monthly or quarterly or annual, all of those things. You can have multiple different views in here. And then the other thing that I don't think people use enough is that firm to-do list. So I may have something I need my staff to do that's not necessarily related to a specific client. And I can go ahead and assign that here, and that still sends them the automated reminders. Specific tasks that I need them to do, I can assign here.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good call out.
What this does is it turns my inbox used to be my to-do list. And I would have to leave it set in there until I got a response or I knew it gotten taken care of. Now this is all happening in Keeper. And I also get notifications if I'm not getting movement. I can easily come in here and see everything that needs to be done, even tasks for myself. I'm putting it in here instead of using my inbox as my task list.
Yeah, really good call out.
Chad,
Christina, looks like you're.
Oh, I was saying double, Michelle, double.
Sorry.
Chad, I
We
and
all get a
Michelle
pass
and
today.
Christine, I do see one good question in the Q&A tab that I do want to touch on. It says the use
Please.
of offshore teams has been mentioned a couple of times. Interested to hear how those team members are set up when there can be sensitive data put in the client portal and W-9 data that they would have access to. We're looking to add offshore team members soon and want to make sure we have everything covered with our data privacy and due diligence.
I think this gets tricky, and it does. So you've got some user settings in the background, and Chad, I can let you talk more in depth about that, about what you can control from the user end. And some of it is just your own due diligence. So whether they can, what all they can see. Chad, I'll let you talk about the user setting side, and then we'll go to the other side.
Yeah. So as far as like user settings go, we'll often see teams set up their offshore team members as what we call standard users in Double. With users set up as standard users, you're able to specify which clients that they have access to. So that way they don't have access to clients that they don't have responsibilities in or shouldn't be looking at. So they're not going to see those other clients on the dashboard. They'll just see those clients that they have responsibilities for. So there are some guardrails that can be set up there for sure.
And it might be something, so I've also seen firms actually have two different task lists, an onshore task list and an offshore task list. That's usually what works best in Keeper. And that way you can assign your offshore folks to the offshore client task list, and then your onshore folks get the onshore task list. And that's how you separate that communication.
But all still in the same place. So that way the
All
teams
still
aren't
in the same
managing it in
place.
different
Yes.
systems. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So I know we just want to get through just a couple more things. You know, we always talk about like what are the objections that you're going to receive, you know, from your clients. And I think this is interesting because we do hear a lot like clients hate portals and they don't want to use the portals, but I do feel like this has been really different with the Double product. And Michelle, like how you feel like clients come in and what they say.
My reaction, I was actually nervous when we implemented this, but my clients tend to love it because they go to one place. They're not having to see if we emailed them. They can't remember whether they text us about that, whether they emailed us about that, whether they put it in the portal, you know, all of those places. I think it does take a little bit of time to retrain them. I think the biggest piece for this client portal that we love is the client boundaries. I think a lot of times we say, okay, we'll respond to your email within 24 hours, but our actions actually tell them it's okay, right? So if they text me over the weekend, I respond over the weekend. And so even though that's not my intent, that is the expectation. So this Keeper portal actually allowed us to reset those boundaries for our clients. Double. Sorry.
We get a pass today.
It's going to take a while. That's probably the biggest, I think, win in this. I love the workflow, I love everything about it, but being able to draw a line in the sand and reset boundaries, and just, you know, we just redirect, and it only took a couple times, and then our clients loved it because they had one place to go.
Yeah. And looking at this next one here, another common objection is we're too busy to implement. And we hear that a lot, especially this time of year as we're getting closer to year end and everyone's gearing up for the upcoming busy season. As we mentioned before, Keeper can be plug and play. So if you're not ready to, oh my gosh, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Christine. Double can be plug and play. So if you're not ready to explore client communication or the workflow side of things, get started in Double so your team can put together or put to use those file review tools that we talked about. It's a great way to get a jump on that year-end cleanup and do that review before you're scrambling in the new year with so much else going on.
This is just a game for me now, so I'm just having fun with
it. You got to keep tallying it.
Okay, let's then just talk about kind of just real quick. We're just going to go through these really quickly. What a 30-day rollout plan. Even if you aren't using Double, piloting that, we didn't catch that. Loading the closed templates, right? I mean, so they're either pre-built for you, or you can easily build one for your practice for your firm. Setting those budgets within each of the tasks within that. Turning on the portal and the reminders, allowing it to just send those reminders. We're getting buzzed on all of these slides here. Standardize request cadence, which is great. Again, this is eliminating that pickup put down, right? That's all you're trying to do. Start weekly huddles with your teams. Holding 15-minute weekly meetings just to say, where are we? But what we love about the product like this, though, is you're easily to shift work, right? You can shift it to anybody without the client necessarily knowing, whether that's offshore or onshore within your teams. Comparing baseline versus post metrics, we gave you some examples of that, of really starting to understand your practice and strategically planning for where you are going to see these capacity gains, right? Because that's really what you should be seeing, is these capacity gains. So I think what's important is to identify what those metrics are now, and then how can you improve them, either with software or just internally as well. Adjust templates as needed, refining the closed templates. Those are all set for you. And then deciding on your scale up plan, how many can expand to double, and based on those pilot results. Price point is right for those of you that aren't already using Keeper Double. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, Chad, but it's $10.
$10 per QBO or zero connected client per month. Unlimited users, so your team size doesn't impact your pricing at all.
And the other piece of this, we get questions from firms, is unlimited storage space. Is that
correct? Yep, that's all included as well.
So we do have a lot of—
Chad, cover your ears. You didn't hear this. So it's $10 per connection. So even if you've got other systems like QBD, use this, you still get the workflow, it's just not connected.
Well, and I know we're at time, so, but we have worked with firms where they're now shifting their work paper folder structure over to Double. And so we're really working, identifying the internal controls and structure that goes with that. So I know we're at time. Thank you guys. And I know new logo. I'm assuming you have changed your website,
Yep, both keeper.app and doublehq.com are live. And then sometime in late November is when we're going to finally make the big push over. But the emails will all redirect for the rest of time. If you email Chad at keeper.app, he'll still get it, regardless of what his email is.
Send me an email.
Yeah, and if you want to be a nerd, like send any questions you have to Michelle and Chad, because they love the questions. Yeah. They love to help firms. How are you doing this better or different for offshore, whatever? I know that they'll race to answer.
Well, I know we're at time, but we do have 2 more questions if we want to try to answer those, if anybody wants to hang out. So I think the first one, Chad, is for you. Will there be a user setting coming where offshore team members don't have to access the client portal?
It's definitely come up before, so something that I need to check in with the engineering team and see where we're at on that, and if that's something planned. Yeah, something I'd have to look into there.
And then can you expand on the idea on onshore versus offshore taskless and double? How is this set up to limit sensitive information? So right now, when we set this up, we will actually set up the client connection twice, and we limit the to-do list or the task list to exclude that vendor, anything that is sensitive data that we wouldn't want the offshore to have access to. We just take that out of the task list for them. And then it's really up to you on whether you're giving your offshore team access to that client portal or not, or allowing them to communicate.
Yeah, good call out there.
Awesome. Well, that's all for the questions. I just wanted to say thank you again, Christine, Michelle, and Chad, for all of your insights today. For those of you who couldn't attend live, or any of your teammates who couldn't attend live, this will be posted to our YouTube channel, so you can always use it as a resource. And yeah, reach out to Infinite Ties or Chad if you have any other follow-up questions, and they will be happy to nerd out about all of this with you. But thank you so much for spending some time with us on your Thursday, and looking forward to seeing everybody getting continually hyped about the new name. So spread the word.
Awesome. Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye, all.
Bye.